Travel companies are back in favour with investors. Crown Resorts finally announces a date to open its Sydney casino, and one of the country's richest couples buys into renewable energy. It's Tuesday, the 26th of July, 2022. Welcome to Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael. Now, I'm excited about the Crown story today because it involves dates. And I'm a bit of a dates person. I kind of like the numbers in dates and how they sound and how they run. Well, the Crown story is a cracker. I learned something about, I'm giving it away, it's the 8th of August, but I learned a lot about the date, the 8th of August today, as a result of this Crown story. Can't wait to tell you about it.
I know that you love your dates because you, particularly in February was a very good month for you because there was lots of twos.
22s, yes.
Yep, 22nd of the 2nd, 2022. And so you were just every day you came in with a new pattern you'd found in the date or something like that. So I know it's been a while for you, so I'm very excited for you that you've got a good date story for us today. We'll get to that in a little bit. Immediately after the show, you've got a chat today with Andrew Hansen from Robert Walters, the recruitment consultancy, about bonuses.
That's right, and about bonus payments and whether they're being paid, whether they're on the rise as a result of these labour shortages we're seeing. Really interesting chat with Andrew.
All right. The main story this morning, though, is all about the travel companies, and they are finally getting some traction among investors, with Flight Centre yesterday saying things are better than it expected, though the company still lost about $185 million last financial year from its ongoing operations.
Yes, Flight Centre said losses will be smaller than forecast because travel has rebounded faster than expected. The travel companies, including the airlines, have lost literally billions of dollars since the beginning of the pandemic. But finally, things seem to be turning around. Flight Centre's share price jumped 5% initially yesterday before closing up 3%. Over the last 6 months, Flight Centre's share price is up 14%. Now that compares to a slight fall in the overall ASX, so clearly a big outperformer. Webjet over the same period is up more than 10%. Others, such as Corporate Travel Management and Qantas, have pretty much tracked closer to the market. But certainly there's hopes that the travel companies will again turn a profit in this current financial year, the 2023 fiscal year. And it's been a few years since we've been able to say that.
So that's from the perspective of investors. Are the travel companies themselves confident?
It seems so. Now, previous comments from Qantas's Alan Joyce and the chief executive of Flight Centre, Graham Turner, it seems so. Flight Centre said demand for travel has accelerated after concerns about the Omicron variant of COVID-19 lessened, and of course as governments around the world relaxed restrictions. Mr. Turner said he expects the improvement to continue. One part of the business doing particularly well is its travel money operations. They're the cards that allow passengers to put money onto and carry foreign exchange. There's very little competition in that market, and so Flight Centre is doing really well. Also, its corporate travel business is picking up market share. Michael, it's just really good to see one of the hardest hit sectors from the pandemic, which, as I mentioned, has lost billions of dollars, finally getting back on its feet.
Yeah, it sure is. And it's probably a good time to remind everyone that we are not an investment podcast. And it's a great idea to get some professional advice before making investment decisions. How about local markets yesterday, Sean? What happened?
There wasn't a lot going on. The S&P ASX 200 closed down just a touch to 6,790 points. The big iron ore miners were among the best performers on the back of higher iron ore prices. BHP closed up 1.6%, Fortescue Metals was up 2.4%, and Rio jumped nearly 1%. The retailers also ended higher, but the banks, with the exception of ANZ, were lower. South32 share price rose 1% after it said it would meet cost guidance for the last financial year, despite labour shortages and inclement weather. Copper producer Oz Minerals wasn't so lucky. It faced similar problems, labour shortages and severe weather, but yesterday it did confirm its guidance, but it has already downgraded. That occurred late last month, and its share price dropped 4% yesterday. Best on the day was insurer IAG. It was up nearly 6%. Worst on the day was EML Payments. I'll tell you all about that one in a moment.
And what's the latest on global markets?
Well, broadly, everyone's in a holding pattern, waiting for the outcome of the Federal Reserve meeting later in the week. In terms of prices, Brent crude is trading a little over $100 a barrel. Gold is at $17.25 an ounce, and the Aussie dollar is fetching just over 69 US cents.
I like to reference to a holding pattern there, considering we spent so long talking about the travel companies and Flight Centre.
Nice pickup.
Yeah, I'd like to think it was deliberate, was it?
No, but I'll take it.
Of course. All right. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has addressed the Labor caucus ahead of the first sitting day of the 47th Parliament, pledging to break the inertia left over from the previous government.
He said Labor had a responsibility to change the country for the better, and the party has a significant platform to work from. Mr Albanese highlighted some of the government's signature policies, including its 43% emissions reduction climate target, wage increases, improvements in diplomatic relations in the region, and action on energy policy. The new Prime Minister, after speaking, received a standing ovation from his party.
Sean, perhaps in a bit of a sign of what's to come, there's already plenty of argy-bargy over the 43% target.
Sure is. Greens leader Adam Bandt said the number is very weak and won't keep global warming below 1.5 degrees. Now, I thought I'd explain that 1.5 degrees because we're going to be talking about it non-stop. That's relative to pre-industrial temperatures measured between 1850 and 1900. Back in 2017, human-induced warming reached about 1 degree above pre-industrial levels. On the current run rate, it's supposed to hit 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels by 2040. So this debate is all about capping that warming. Of course, for anything to happen in Australia, the government needs the backing of the Greens to pass its legislation in the Senate. It also needs one more vote in the Senate, and the ACT's David Pocock is the most likely there. Mind you, yesterday he said the emissions reduction target isn't strong enough. So, as you said, plenty of argy-bargy already.
And just quickly, Sean, it seems Mr Albanese couldn't quite resist a crack at the former Morrison government.
No, he was very critical of the Morrison government for trying to scare people into a vote on polling day and to trash the separation between the public service and government. It follows the announcement on election day of the interception of a people smuggling boat off Christmas Island. Mr Albanese said the former government should be held to account for the appalling act. Now, he might like to ask Scott Morrison about it today, but he won't be able to because Mr Morrison won't be there. He's accepted an invitation to join other former Prime Ministers to address an international event in Tokyo. Probably a day in Parliament Mr Morrison is quite happy to miss.
Yeah, I imagine you're right. Sean, Comsec's quarterly State of the States report shows that Victoria tops the rankings, while New South Wales comes in at 7th and the Northern Territory 8th.
The report pulls together different bits of data across the states. The strength in Victoria is around retail spending. Their population growth is slow there. Number 2 is the ACT, where equipment investment is strong. Then comes Tasmania, which had been in the lead. Queensland, which is benefiting from people moving north, comes next. Then Western Australia, South Australia, New South Wales. That state is suffering from relatively low equipment investment. And then Northern Territory is number 8. Housing is the main concern there.
Sean, there are plenty of concerns locally about the spread of monkeypox in Australia.
The growth overseas is alarming. 2 weeks ago, there were 10,000 cases and now there's 16,000 cases. In Australia, there are just 44 cases, 24 in New South Wales, 16 in Victoria, 2 in the ACT and 1 each in Queensland and South Australia. Monkeypox is related to smallpox. Smallpox, of course, has been eradicated. Monkeypox is mostly transmitted through close physical contact. It's seldom fatal, but health experts are very worried about it.
And the government had to defend its response to the outbreak of foot and mouth disease throughout Indonesia.
That's right. Opposition leader Peter Dutton joined the chorus of people calling for the government to close the border with our northern neighbour yesterday. Agriculture Minister Murray Watt said measures are in place, including sanitation foot mats that kill the virus on people's shoes. They're the strongest response to a biosecurity threat in Australian history, Mr Watt said. New South Wales has also ramped up its defences. It won't be closing its border with Indonesia.
All right, Sean, we talked a lot about this one earlier, and I know that you're very excited to get to it. Crown Resorts will finally open its gaming floor at its $2.2 billion casino in Barangaroo on August the 8th.
Yes, the 8th day of the 8th month. Any thoughts on why that might be attractive to the owners of Crown?
Because I know that 8 is considered lucky.
Yes, that's exactly right. Certainly among Chinese gamblers, the 8th of the 8th is considered the luckiest day of the year, and double 8 is supposed to bring joy. No wonder that's when they're opening the new casino in Sydney's Barangaroo.
Makes sense.
It comes more than a month after Crown, which is now owned by US private equity giant Blackstone, gained conditional approval from the New South Wales regulator. The casino is designed to cater to VIP high rollers. Now, it comes 10 years after James Packer famously met then Premier Barry O'Farrell over lunch at media personality Alan Jones's apartment. They sat and worked on a plan to build the casino. While Mr. Packer has well and truly sold out now, he still owns a $60 million apartment on top of the complex. And as of next March, I think, he plans to start living there.
Okay, now another one that we mentioned a bit earlier on, Sean, Payment Solutions Group EML Payments has flagged delays in implementing a remediation plan at its PFS card services business in Ireland.
It's been a real millstone around the neck of EML. EML bought the Irish business. It then fell foul of regulators, and the remediation program has been developed by the Bank of Ireland and EML. But now there are delays, and that sent EML's share price down 22% yesterday. EML share price is now down about 2/3 over just 3 months.
Toll road group Atlas Arteria has confirmed it held talks with suitor IFM investors following raids on its shares in early June.
It's one of the few remaining large listed infrastructure groups on the ASX. And while it has been in talks, it has not received a bid from IFM investors, notwithstanding that group now owns almost 15% of the company. A full takeover would be in the $8 billion range. Atlas owns toll roads in France, the US and Germany. Its share price has jumped about 15% since IFM bought in.
And we love talking about potential takeovers. And how about this one, Sean? Renewable energy infrastructure group GenX's shares are up more than 45% after receiving a takeover offer from a consortium including Skip Capital, which is the investment vehicle of Scott Farquhar and his wife, Kim Jackson.
Skip already holds just under 20% of GenX, which is now valued at $260 million. Scott Farquhar and his partner in Atlassian, Mike Cannon-Brookes, are among the wealthiest of all Australians. And just like Cannon-Brookes' failed bid for AGL Energy, this one that Mr. Farquhar and his wife are undertaking is all about supercharging green energy. They certainly, both of them are very driven by that. And in this case, Mr. Farquhar and his wife, Ms. Jackson, are putting their money where their mouth is.
Now, speaking of being driven, Sean, I know you keep an eye on the price of avocados. You've mentioned them a few times already this year, almost as many times as you have mentioned home renovations and various stats there. So I do suspect there's a small amount of self-interest in here as an avocado fan. There is some good news when it comes to avocado prices. They are falling.
Not good news, Michael. It's great news for we avocado lovers.
Of which you are one, I'm assuming.
That's right. I mean, I remember growing up, avocados used to be a treat. You almost had to be rich to have an avocado. And then supply increased. And then there was that phase, the smashed avo phase was very trendy. More plantings were made. Earlier this year, one supermarket CEO boasted that avo prices would remain low even as other food prices rose. I kept an eye on that because I'm pretty keen on the old avo. 2 weeks after that CEO said it, avos had doubled in price. It had gone from $1 to $2. I was outraged. Anyway, they've come back down again with a report by Rabobank yesterday saying supply is up 26% on last year and will keep growing in coming years. There has been a bumper crop in Western Australia. It means the not-so-humble avo is now selling for around $1 again. That's about half the average price of the last 5 years. Self-interest? Absolutely.
Sean, the excitement in your voice, it is a minor miracle that avocados didn't rate a mention in the headlines for this morning's
When
show.
I wrote the script, Michael, they did. And right at the end, I took it out and I thought I better talk about renewable energy because that's probably broader than my love for avos. That's the truth.
A slightly more important issue in the grand scheme of things, I suppose. But in terms of self-interest, the avo wins hands down. All right. Moving on to overseas news, the strong US dollar, which is at a 20-year high, Sean, has wiped off billions of dollars in sales by US companies that sell their products into other nations.
That's right. The Financial Times is reporting that billions of dollars are missing from this June quarter's earnings season because of the strong greenback. Of course, when a company from the US sells into another market like Europe or Asia, the money it receives has to go through the exchange rate mechanism and they get less for it. Bellwethers like IBM, Netflix, Johnson & Johnson and Philip Morris have all reported losses on the back of exchange rate movements. That group is expected to grow this week as tech giants Apple and Microsoft report.
Now, Sean, fear and greed really isn't one for peddling gossip. But this story is much too good to ignore. And of course, it is delivered by reputable media outlets. So the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Elon Musk had a brief affair with the wife of one of his best friends. Now, that best friend was Sergey Brin, the founder of Google.
Yes. Now, according to the Journal, it occurred in December last year, and Mr. Brin and his wife, Nicole Shanahan, separated in January. Now, Mr. Brin and Mr. Musk have been friends for a long time. In fact, in 2008, when Tesla was going broke, Mr. Brin, the man from Google, lent Mr. Musk about $500 million US. He's been a big supporter of the Tesla founder ever since. Now, Mr. Brin is selling all his interests in Mr. Musk's related companies. The report says that Mr. Musk begged Mr. Brin for forgiveness. Now, after the report came out, Elon Musk tweeted that the report was BS or false. Mr. Musk has 9 children. Wall Street Journal reported it. We are just telling you the news.
I think the highlight of my week so far could be you clarifying exactly what BS means. That is fantastic. Finally, Sean, there is a heat wave in Europe and an energy crisis. So French authorities will start fining shopkeepers who use air conditioning and leave the door open.
Can you do that with your kids?
I was just thinking that, actually. Surely that this will set a precedent for households right around the world.
I hope so. Those shopkeepers will also get fined if they leave illuminated signs on at night. The fear is that Russian President Vladimir Putin will shut down gas supplies to the rest of Europe in retaliation for Europe supporting Ukraine. That would then escalate the current energy crisis. So, retailers across France that fail to shut the door when using air conditioners will be fined €750, while running an illuminated sign between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. will attract a €1,500 penalty. It is part of President Emmanuel Macron's energy sobriety plan. I think I'm going to institute it here in my house.
Good luck. All right, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily interview, and today you're speaking with Andrew Hansen from Robert Walters.
Yes, it's all about the employment market. Obviously, it's hot. 3.5% unemployment rate means businesses are trying to keep and attract workers. We talked to Andrew about that, particularly around bonuses in the white-collar sector and what's happening there.
Yeah, it's a really good chat. It's coming up next in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Tuesday, the 26th of July, 2022. Make sure you're following the podcast and join us online on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.